When to sell your cards? It's the golden question for any sports card investor. I find it ironic sometimes to hear people's comments about not willing to sell when prices are high because they want to see how far it will go. Or on the flip side, not sell when prices are down because they don't want to take a loss. It's all about a tipping point on the different scenarios which I'll talk about today. What's up YouTube, Card Boss here. We talk about everything cards, money, investing. Alright, let's go. So you have spent $1,000 on sports cards. You watch hundreds of hours of YouTube content, and you have zoomed in on the perfect set of cards to begin your investing journey. Market is doing alright, your portfolio increases by 30%, and you start to wonder if you should sell any of your cards now. You go back to YouTube. People keep saying how hot the market is and how you should keep riding, and so you do. Suddenly, something changed and the market starts to flatten or even trend down a little. No problem, you're still in the black and things will recover. Then it goes lower and lower, and people are saying just hold on, which you do. In a span of 2 months, you're exactly back where you started and at a different set of crossroads. Hold on or sell just in case the market dips further. All these common questions that pops up during our investment journey, and we make decisions which can be right or wrong at that juncture. For those who haven't watched my earlier video on my Luka Blue Prizms, which I sold for $6,000, do check it out and share some tears with me. That being said, spoiler alert, no regrets on the sale, and I'll share my tips how I approach selling my sports cards. You first need an investment goal. A lot of us don't map out this very clearly and just have a broad goal in mind to make money. Well, sure, making money is a form of reward or return, but you have to ask yourself on whether are you making money to get some extra spending cash on the side to take your family out for a nice dinner, or are you building medium to long-term wealth? There's no harm for either option, but understanding your goals clearly determines how you will need to approach selling. I'll touch on quick tips for quick cash first. When you just want to make a few extra bucks on the side, any amount of profit is good when you sell. The only consideration would be whether the profit earned is worth the time and effort in delivering that profit. I'll give you an example on that. Say you're one of those guys who previously lines up overnight to buy retail products from Target to flip. You make a few $100 profit margins a night, waiting in the freezing cold, and you probably do it again. While this works for some of you, for others you might want to consider what you could do differently in that few hours to generate similar or more profits. Now comes the wealth building or investing part, which most of you guys are here for. There's 3 branches when it comes to sports card investing: accumulation, consolidation, and divestment. Accumulation is what most of us are doing, buying and selling cards to build equity, whether is it online or trade shows. Some people use the word grinding, and that's essentially what it is: grinding out every card to earn a profit and recycling back into your funnel. Consolidation is the process of streaming your portfolio. This involves both buying and selling parts of your existing portfolio to compact it to meet one of your focus objectives. For example, consolidating all the various Luka PSA 10 rookie cards into one or more flawless RPAs, or selling all your second year base slabs for rookie card slabs only. The game plan is yours. And finally, divestment, which means the end game, when the time you finally get out. Normally it's hard for a true investor to identify what or when his true end game would be. The collector in us won't allow for that. So it's occasionally factors outside our normal expectations that drives divestment. Example, a life event such as a wedding, a new home, a new child, or in a more tragic example, loss of primary income or medical expenses. Now on to the selling points in each of these branches. In this stage, we are essentially building equity, and my key criteria here is cash flow. Let me explain. In a market that is as fluid as sports cards, buying and selling happens all the time. If you had already bought into the correct kind of investments, there is never shortage of buyers of what you are holding. The 2 factors that determine when you move some of your holdings is profit target and timing. When I'm in accumulation stage, it's important that I set a profit target on my items. It's not necessarily has to be a blanket target across all my items. So for example, if I were flipping PSA 9 slabs, I'll look to earn at least 20% margin, 30% on PSA 10s, and for cards that's valued $1,000 or more, I aim to make at least a 40% return before I sell. Selling builds bankroll and builds equity, so you have to be disciplined with your selling so you can continue to roll your profits. Some people starting out finds it difficult to break off that emotional connection with their cards, but just remind yourself of the goals you set up before. Is there any wrong holding cards longer than you should to potentially see if it might go a lot further? None whatsoever, but you have to be mindful of the investor trap I mentioned earlier. There is a caveat to all these numbers, which is my second point, timing. Depending on the market trends, card prices could be going down instead of up. So if that's the case, you end up not selling anything as you don't meet your profit targets. But coming to my earlier key point on cash flows, downtrend in markets provide good buying opportunities, but you need cash in order to buy in. So unless you're putting more fresh capital in, you need to make decisions on whether you should be moving some of your items, be it at a lower than your profit targets, at cost, or even at a loss. Intuition and judgment comes in to weigh the cost benefit of the incoming item versus your existing portfolio. And the window for these decisions are very small, so you need to be fast and not waffle around as the opportunity may swing you by. I can understand it's sometimes hard to sell your cards at a loss, but if every time you do sufficient work to assess the cost versus the opportunity that you are buying into, you're making a smart and informed decision, regardless whether or not you make a play. Will it always be correct? Of course not. Again, the market is very fluid, and as such, you need to be as well. By now, you have done very well for yourself and are planning to consolidate the mass amount of cards or equity together into a few strategic pieces. Now, I won't discuss on how to approach what sort of strategic pieces you should buy, but instead highlight on the train of thought on when this piece is actually made available for sale. I would assume you have done the necessary homework on that piece, price potential, provenance, liquidity, and all those jazz. Now, depending on the quality of the deal, i.e. whether it's something between strong consideration to don't let this chance slip through, it would decide how you would approach selling your existing holdings to consolidate upwards towards the item. Rule number 1 would be you would only sell items at a profit. This sounds mundane, but that objective is to consolidate into something bigger and lowering its cost base equivalent to the cost of what you are selling. Having to sell an item that's currently in a loss position just throws off that math. Simple theory here. So for example, you were interested to acquire a $10,000 item and you have 5 $2,000 items for sale to essentially swap. In the first scenario, if the cost base of each of these items were $1,500, meaning you're currently making a profit of $500 each, and technically your cost base of that new item would be $7,500. On the flip side, if you're in for $2,500 on each of those items you are consolidating up to, technically your cost base is $12,500 instead of $10,000. While we discussed earlier about assessing the merits of selling at a loss, it's important to figure out what stage you are in your investing branch, and I would normally reserve selling or flipping at a loss to build cash flows and not to consolidate. There is a small exception to this rule, where there was an item that met the grail or don't let this chance slip by type of item. It is when you probably throw your entire arsenal, plus the kitchen sink at it. Also, if the entire market is on a downswing, and the value of the card you are planning to consolidate into has also gone down by the same percentage versus the cards you plan to sell to consolidate upwards, then by all means go for it. It's a like-for-like swap in that moment in time. For divestment, it's all about timing to maximize your returns in cash, not necessarily in profit. There's no clear path of divestment, as most times it can come unplanned. Even if it was planned, example, you want to buy a new house in 2 years and started mapping out your divestment plan, it can get difficult to part certain items at planned points in time. But my tip would be, if you are planning for a divestment for any life event, start road mapping and build the best path to move your inventory according to your roadmap. This includes constantly monitoring prices and trends and having certain avenues at your fingertips to move inventory quickly, such as the PWCC Vault. Be cautious to include things like planning to fly around, to attend shows, to peddle your cards, as these add time and cost to your overall goals. Of course, exceptions can be made if this was in conjunction of having a vacation or spending the weekend with friends. So in conclusion, having a clear goal and plan, followed by understanding which branch you are on, will help you make more confident decisions on when to sell. It took a while for me to pen down and articulate what I just shared, because selling has come quite automatic to me. And I believe once you guys get the hang of it as well, you'll be able to make faster and more efficient selling decisions for your sports cards. So if you guys like this video and found it very useful, do like and subscribe for more content in the future. I will be putting up similar videos, so do watch out for that. Thanks and have a great day.